blazing.
JJ really going to work early and just wanted to maul this guy. He hit him. He's down. He's down. But Pineda is claiming back of the head. What on earth?
I think he's overwhelmed by the moment, guys. I think he's just in too deep.
Mate, unfortunately, this is what happens when you get opponents who are in no way ready for this level. Oh my God, this is embarrassing.
What is going on?
The problem is the two worst opponents of the night came in KSI's fights, and that's the truth. This guy just doesn't belong here. Mate, get him out of there, man.
Okay, that was a guy, Xi, JJ, whatever the hell his name was, Olajuwon. He is a YouTube guy. He does his rap. He's part of that sort of little group with Jake Paul, Logan Paul, and I forget some other sort of like guys who, you know, make news by saying strange things on YouTube. I guess we do the same thing as well. Isolt, watching that, the guy came in apparently from Mexico. The amount of absolute, quite xenophobic, rather racist statements by the commentators that like he's the weakest Mexican I've ever seen, usually Mexicans take a beating and so on and so forth. It was really repulsive to actually. I sat through the replay of that one fight, 2 fights last night. But this is pure nonsense. I mean, I'm sorry, this isn't boxing. This is guys, you know, I don't know what the hell it is. So explain to me, please.
So I'm just going to be very clear. I have no issue. I think white collar boxing is a great thing. I have no issue with, I'm going to say Jake Paul. Jake Paul is training like a fighter, and he's fighting opponents who might actually be, you know, they're basically journeymen, or potentially some of the guys he calls out from YouTube is a different kind of story. But he's fighting actual boxers. I have a huge issue with the idea that we are calling it boxing. And I know KSI has now set up a new company, Misfits Boxing, where the idea is you can call someone out, and I listened to him talking about this last week. You can call someone out because you're a YouTuber and you have beef, or what you'd like to call beef, with another YouTuber, and you call them out. But you're not fighters. You're not training in this way consistently, and instead you have someone like KSI who's obviously got a bit of ability, or at least is training, fighting some guy who shouldn't be in a ring with him. The fact that he was able to have 2 fights in one night against two knockouts, if you want to call it that, it's absolutely ridiculous. And what it actually does is it doesn't promote the sport of boxing. It may bring new eyes in, which I have no issue with. What it actually does, it gives the impression that boxing isn't a sport that needs absolute dedication by the participants. And I hate the idea that you could be another YouTuber who has no interest in fighting, but there's almost like a bullying aspect that if someone calls you out, like KSI, you have to get in the ring with him. Like, at what point do we stop and go, this is schoolyard bullying? And it's nonsense. Facts from the sport of boxing. Call it white collar boxing. Don't pretend that this is boxing. Jake Paul, I'm putting him to an extent in a different category purely because I think he's got to the level of an okay novice boxer. He's not a professional.
No, but this is it. So they had something yesterday called the ICB World Boxing Championship. I think it's the Internet Championship. I don't know what the hell it is.
You're not dangerous, and it gives people the wrong impression. It detracts not only from the sport of boxing, but it gets to a stage where everyone thinks they can box. Boxing is an art form, but it's also one that has potential life-altering consequences if it goes wrong.
Isel, we've spoken with this in terms of doping in boxing, doping in MMA and boxing. We have spoken with people who are involved in just like how amazingly dangerous it is. Because same in rugby, in soccer, let Liverpool or Man City, whoever it is, or Man United, let them take whatever they want to be superpowered. But they're not going to really kill other people. But in boxing, you have someone else's life in your hands. Andrew, I mean, this thing last night, I mean, this is one of the headlines from an MMA, which I don't have a huge lot of time for MMA, but this is like KSI, I thought it was KSI Miami, wipes out two overmatched opponents by knockout in the same night, admits he needs more time before Jake Paul fight. Now, I think he's already drawn or beaten the brother of Jake Paul, Logan Paul. I mean, this guy from Mexico came in, supposedly with 2-5 record, 2 wins, 5 defeats. He lost his 4 previous fights coming into it. The thing that I noticed as well, Isolt, and I'll stick with Andrew on this one, but I noticed that KSI or whatever his name is, he was punching around the back of the head. It was really sloppy stuff, novice amateur stuff, not just novice pro stuff. So this is what got to me. I was like, and the referee just didn't do anything. Eventually, the referee said, "Stop punching the back of the head." And I'm thinking, but no, he actually thumped the fella in the back of the head. You know, sorry, Andrew. This whole thing of calling out on YouTube and all this kind of nonsense and tomfoolery, is it just a bit of fun, or is it going to get dangerous at some point?
Well, it would be a bit of fun if they were vaguely evenly matched. I mean, look, just watching that clip alone, I mean, you guys are the boxing experts. You understand the technique. I don't understand every fine detail, but anybody watching that, you're not going to be drawn into the sport of boxing there. You're there to see someone beat someone else up. And I think Isel made a really, really good point. Look, if you say this is verging on bullying or is bullying, you'll get a whole swathe of people who say, "Oh, stop being a snowflake." That's what people say in the modern day. But this really is. This is beyond bullying. This is dangerous for the boxers. Well, very, very poor boxers. You mentioned his record 2-5, but the sport of boxing itself. Look, I love sport. I would love to be drawn into boxing, and I would love to see contests that are even. That's what sport is. If it's just so one-sided that it wasn't even one-sided, it was just concerning. The kid looks terrified. I mean, look, the whole concept of these two, when they first started shouting at each other on YouTube and said, "All right, come on, let's slap each other about a bit," the YouTubers would love that. And if it stayed in the YouTube realm of fighting each other, fighting other YouTubers, well, I don't think anybody can really complain with that. Trying to, like Isel said, trying to call it boxing is disrespectful to the sport. It's disrespectful to the people whose livelihoods depend on it. It's disrespectful to people who love it, but also it's dangerous. I mean, it's not fun. That wasn't fun to watch. That was just worrying, to be quite frank with you.
No, you're right. It is worrying that. I mean, we'll close off on this. I mean, sorry, just as basically it was rabbit punches. Sorry, just like Arthur written in that it is rabbit punches. So thank you very much. That's exactly what it is. Rabbit punches in the back of it. But it was really ridiculous. Isel, I agree with white collar boxing. I actually coached boxers for this as well, for white collar boxing. I was involved in it, and I mean, as an amateur, I had fought I've never fought more than 3, but I fought 2 fights a night, 2, 3-minute rounds. It was tough going, and if it's serious, I mean, this is beyond. Again, it's bad. But what can, you see Barry Hearn and people Eddie Hearn promoting it. Can someone not just say stop? Can the authorities not ban it?
So a big thing is about eyes in the sport. When it comes down to regulation and who authorizes these fights and licenses them, it's a different story. So they're not necessarily. This was a big issue with the likes of Rio Ferdinand couldn't fight professionally, because he wasn't given his license. But this is why they're going out of their way to set up, like KSI setting up his own company, Misfits or whatever. Because if you take the time to move away and you have the money and resources to set up new brands, you can pretty much avoid a lot of the regulation, and that's the problem. Prize fighting in and of itself is still actually technically illegal, so you could look into that from a legal perspective, but you need very deep pockets. I suppose my concern is, why not put headgear on? Why not look at the people who are, if you want to have guys fight each other, just be considerate as to who's fighting who. Anyone who can fight 2 people on one night and beat both of them, he's not fighting people who have a like ability. And even though he may be learning the sport, there are huge concerns out there. Like, you and I can drive cars. That doesn't mean we think we can drive in a Formula 1 race.
No, and I wouldn't.
And we need to, I would try, but there is a disparity, and we need to look at, it's not about the KSIs of this world. It's about the guys who are in the ring with him. There needs, like, those guys are getting a payday. And Barry Hearn, Eddie Hearn, any of these guys, Frank Warren actually has been quite vocal. He doesn't like it, yet when it was potentially Tommy Fury, he was potentially okay with it. But the idea is that they're getting eyes in the sport and they're seeing money, and they're not looking at, like, we don't protect boxers in general. We have to do enough. We need to do more for the existing participants before we bring in a new group who don't know what they're doing in a ring.
Yeah, look, that's it. And we all know from following boxing. I mean, I remember saying with a friend of myself, Andy Max, that if you put down a boxing card for me, just say, oh, let me have a look at it, I can tell you the results the whole way through. Because you see someone who come in with a record of 12 wins and 4 defeats, and he's coming in against like a 5-0 fight, 5 wins and no losses fighter, and think, oh, this could be good. He's got more experience. Yeah, the 12 guys. Yeah,
and like you're like, this guy literally at the American fight, a guy was roped in at the weigh-in for his first professional fight against Fraser Clark. He was
the big fat lad, yeah.
So like, that's professional boxing, elite level, and that's what they're doing.
No, but he said I've done it where I've gone down to work the corner of another fighter that I was coaching, and then they said, would you jump in, we need someone to come in. Now, I'd already been training, I was fit, and I walked in an amateur fight, 3 2-minute rounds, one even where I had a club spar where the guy said, like, we need someone, could you come in? He's around like 10 12 kilos heavier, and you can just come in and move around him. Yeah, but it's an amateur fight, it was well controlled, headgear on. Okay, headgear don't huge amount of pressure, but still, it's there, at least it looks the part. But it's an amateur thing, and it's something that at least I got in to fight a decent fighter, but I already had a lot of experience. Not that it was my first ever fight. Andrew, we'll end up on this because we're getting lots of comments in. Actually, one from Kean. Kean, how are you doing? He said, okay, this is good. The amount of guys that think they can box, it's amazing. The amount of crossover fights happening. Barry Hall, ex-AFL player, doing something similar. It's just dangerous, plain and simple. There's a lot of players, New Zealand rugby players, soccer players, of course, have been doing it as well. But boxing or any kind of fighting is a very difficult sport. Again, as he said, like, I would even go even further. You can drive a car, fine. It's like putting someone up on a horse for the first time and say, go ride the Grand National. That's what it's like into boxing, because you're going to die. You are going to die. Andrew, quickly on this, it looks like it's making a lot of money. Would you go in and do 3-minute rounds with Andy Mack for a showdown if he called you out in the morning?
Well, it depends what the 3-minute rounds were. If it was how many beef steaks you can eat in Harrods pub in Moscow, then I'd probably win that one hands down. But no, I think, yeah, Andy Mack's got a bit of sporting experience. I wouldn't fancy that, I have to be honest. No, I mean, look, for a big payday, no, I wouldn't. I'll be quite honest, I wouldn't. I mean, I'd rather pick my battles where I can actually fight a battle. If it's a battle where it's not even actually a contest, what's the point? I genuinely don't get it. But money talks, and people are spoken to, and they're swayed by it.
That's it. No, you're right. I mean, there's one point before we go out. So one more. Sorry, I know we've got in the chat. Oh, Andy Mack said that it's on. All right, there we go. Andy Mack has said it's on. It's been official called out. I'll organise it. It'll be on.
Bring it on then. All right, we're going.
We'll see it. A question came in from Arthur in the US. So does anyone? Well, a couple of things. Boxers are fit because if you're not fit, you get hit more. That is true. Retired boxers told me that. And you asked anyone remember Terry Marsh? Yes, Terry Marsh, the fighting fireman from, I think it was from East London or something like that. Yeah, superb fighter. Like, he was actually a fireman and fought his way to a world title as well. I think he got out as well. I think he might have only won or lost one fight or so, 2 fights, but he got out actually pretty well. So, okay, we're going to take a quick break right now. Unless, Eastal, have you any more to say about this fake boxing, Lark?
No, I would just actually, Terry Marsh is a great example. I'm not saying that boxers can't have careers outside boxing. I just don't like the idea of boxing being diminished in the sense that we literally suggest just because you're on YouTube, you can box. And just because you have the ability to call someone out in a large audience, that it's fair or that it's right. Boxing is a skill and it's a talent that should be recognized for that. We don't do enough to support actual boxers. Let's not jump on the KSI train.
Yeah, I'm up with that. So Arthur, thank you very much for the feedback as well.